Have you ever wondered why some people seem trapped in a cycle of financial struggle, while others, even with fewer opportunities, manage to build stability, power, and influence? It is not always about luck, privilege, or even talent. Very often, it comes down to something far less visible, something hidden in plain sight: the daily discipline of thought and action. Picture this. You walk into a convenience store, and you see a man spending his last dollars on lottery tickets. His face lights up with the fantasy of winning, but deep down, he knows tomorrow will look the same. Now compare him to another person who, instead of chasing quick luck, quietly invests those same dollars day after day with the patience of someone planting seeds for a forest they may never fully walk through. Which of these two do you think is silently writing the script of their destiny? Most of us have witnessed these small decisions in others, maybe even in ourselves. That subtle urge to escape discipline and seek instant pleasure, that little voice that says, "I deserve this now," even when it sabotages the future. These choices seem insignificant in the moment, but over years, they draw the line between poverty of spirit and the architecture of wealth. And here lies the paradox. Poverty is not simply the absence of money. Poverty is a habit, a set of choices, a way of thinking that silently eats away at our potential. To act poor is not about lacking possessions, it is about living without vision, discipline, or strategy. Wealth, in contrast, is rarely born from sudden miracles. It is cultivated, like a fortress being built brick by brick, each day requiring effort, sacrifice, and foresight. This is why Niccolò Machiavelli, the political thinker of Renaissance Italy, wrote not for dreamers, but for those who understood the weight of discipline. He knew that empires are not gifts. They are crafted, maintained, and defended. The same is true for the empire of your personal wealth. So let me ask you directly, are your daily habits writing the story of fortune or the story of loss? If you feel the sting of this question, stay with me. Because in this journey we will expose the hidden psychology of acting poor and discover the discipline that has always built the great empires of history. And before we continue, tell me in the comments, what is one habit you suspect is quietly keeping you poor? What if wealth was not about how much money you make, but about how you train your imagination? Imagine for a moment that you could see your future self 10 years from now. Would that person thank you for the discipline of today, or curse you for the comfort you refuse to sacrifice? Close your eyes and envision a simple choice. Tonight, you could spend your money on a fleeting pleasure, an expensive dinner, a gadget, a night out. Or you could channel it into something that multiplies, a book that sharpens your mind, a course that opens new skills, or an investment that grows quietly while you sleep. One path gives you a moment of satisfaction, the other, a foundation for a future that feels almost unreachable to the present you. Now imagine this multiplied not by one night, but by 3,600 nights, the span of 10 years. Which version of you will emerge from that discipline? The one who chased comfort or the one who planted seeds of empire? This is the brutal but liberating truth. Every empire, whether of nations or of personal wealth, begins first in the theater of the mind. Before you live it, you must imagine it. Most of us underestimate the power of this "what if." We treat imagination as a child's game, when in fact it is the architect of destiny. The poor act as if the future does not exist, living trapped in the urgency of now. The wealthy, whether in money, wisdom, or influence, act as if the future is already here, and discipline their present accordingly. This shift is not abstract, it has practical force. The habit of asking "what if" before every choice can transform how you live. What if I save instead of spend? What if I wake earlier instead of scrolling? What if I build instead of consume? Small questions, repeated daily, accumulate into an entirely different life. So I ask you, if your future self could write you a letter today, what would it beg you to stop doing? And what would it plead for you to begin? Stay with this thought. Let it haunt you, because only when your imagination burns vividly enough will your discipline begin to follow. We are taught to believe that poverty is only about lack of resources, while wealth belongs to those with opportunity. But this belief is a convenient lie, one that keeps millions trapped. The real barrier is not money, It is the worship of comfort. Think about it. Comfort feels safe, but it is often the cage we decorate with distractions. The poor mindset seeks ease today at the cost of tomorrow. It buys the shiny object, eats the indulgent meal, or wastes time in endless entertainment. Each act whispers, "I deserve this," but in truth, it robs you of the power to build something greater. Here is the uncomfortable insight. Poverty is not primarily financial, it is psychological. It is the inability to delay gratification, the refusal to face discomfort, the avoidance of discipline. Acting poor means choosing the short-term relief that ensures long-term struggle. In contrast, wealth demands friction. It requires saying no when every part of you craves yes. It means working on the foundation while others play on the surface. This is why so many remain stuck. They imagine wealth as a miracle, winning the lottery, stumbling into opportunity, receiving a sudden windfall. But history reveals another truth. Empires rise not from miracles but from unyielding discipline. The Roman Empire, for example, did not expand because its citizens chose ease. It expanded because discipline was woven into the daily life of its people. And here is the paradox most never see. Comfort feels rich in the moment but makes you poor over time. Discipline feels poor in the moment but makes you rich over time. One gives instant sweetness with lasting bitterness. The other tastes bitter now but transforms into enduring power. So let me ask you directly, where in your life have you been mistaking comfort for success? Is it in how you spend your evenings, how you use your money, how you feed your body, or how you feed your mind? The first step toward building an empire of wealth is breaking the illusion that comfort is your friend. Because in truth, comfort is the silent thief, and only discipline can guard the gates of your future. When Niccolò Machiavelli wrote The Prince in the 16th century, he was not offering advice for the comfortable. He was speaking to rulers who understood that power was fragile, always under threat, and that only discipline could preserve it. His words may seem distant from our daily lives, but the core lesson is timeless. Without discipline, wealth and power collapse as quickly as they are gained. Machiavelli observed that fortune favors those who act with foresight. He described fortune as a river, unpredictable, often destructive, but manageable by those who prepare in advance. The undisciplined man waits for luck, hoping the flood will not reach him. The disciplined man builds dams and canals before the waters rise. This metaphor is not just about politics, it is about your personal empire. Are you waiting for life's storms to pass, or are you preparing your defenses now? The poor mindset is reactive. It waits for opportunity, prays for rescue, and curses bad luck when setbacks arrive. The wealthy mindset, in contrast, is proactive. It studies reality without illusions, accepts discomfort, and acts with strategy. This is Machiavelli's wisdom distilled. See the world as it is, not as you wish it to be, and then act with ruthless consistency. Modern psychology echoes this. Research on self-control shows that disciplined individuals are not necessarily stronger, but clearer about their priorities. They see the future self as real, not imaginary. Every disciplined action, then, is a loyalty to that future self. The undisciplined betray it daily. So let us be clear. Discipline is not about restriction, it is about construction. Each sacrifice is a stone in the fortress you are building. Each refusal of temptation is a brick in the empire of your wealth. This is why Machiavelli's writings, though centuries old, remain radical today. He stripped away illusions and told leaders, if you wish to endure, you must discipline yourself beyond comfort. Ask yourself, what river of fortune is rising in your life right now? Are you exposed to its floods, or have you built your defenses with discipline? Remember, wealth, like power, is never inherited in spirit. It must be fortified, maintained, and defended every single day. There are forces in your life that shape your destiny without you even noticing. They are not dramatic events or obvious catastrophes. They are quiet patterns, habits of thought and behavior that repeat themselves until they define who you are. If you have ever felt like no matter what you do, you keep ending up in the same place, it is because of these invisible dynamics. Consider the way many people treat money. When they receive a little extra, Their first instinct is to spend it. The purchase brings a brief sense of power, of reward, of control. But the moment passes and nothing lasting is left behind. This is not simply a financial habit. It is a psychological pattern of seeking relief rather than building strength. It is acting poor, even when money is in your hand. Another hidden pattern is the avoidance of discomfort. Every time you postpone the difficult task, every time you escape into distraction, you reinforce a cycle. Weakness today ensures weakness tomorrow. It is not that life refuses to give you opportunity. It is that your daily choices are silently ensuring you are unprepared when opportunity arrives. The philosopher Aristotle once said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. What is rarely discussed is that mediocrity and poverty of spirit follow the same law. They are not accidents, but habits reinforced over time. This means your empire of wealth or your prison of poverty is being built right now, brick by invisible brick. What makes these patterns dangerous is their camouflage. You don't notice them in the moment. Scrolling through your phone for 30 minutes feels harmless. Buying a coffee you cannot afford feels insignificant. But compounded over years, these choices shape the architecture of your future. You do not see the walls rising until they have already trapped you. So pause and reflect. What invisible habits are keeping you where you are? Do you recognize the patterns of consumption without creation? Escape without effort, indulgence without investment? The poor mindset does not ask these questions, but the disciplined mind exposes these patterns and breaks them with new rituals. If you want to stop acting poor, you must first learn to see the unseen. Because once you can name your invisible patterns, you hold the first tool of power: awareness. There are moments when a single sentence can cut through illusions more powerfully than hours of explanation. The poor mindset thrives on excuses and comfort. The wealthy mindset thrives on clarity and discipline. Sometimes, all it takes is one line to burn a truth into your mind. Let these words strike you. Comfort is the drug. Discipline is the cure. Poverty is not a lack of money. It is a lack of vision. Every dollar you spend is a vote for the life you are building. If you do not master yourself, someone else will. Acting poor is chasing pleasure. Acting rich is building power. These are not slogans to decorate your wall. They are challenges to confront daily. Each phrase is a sword meant to cut through the fog of excuses. Consider the weight of the idea. Every dollar you spend is a vote for the life you are building. Suddenly, money is no longer neutral. It becomes an instrument of vision. Spend on vanity and you are voting for a fragile self-image. Spend on education and you are voting for expansion. Spend on nothing, saving, and you are voting for freedom. Each choice is political, a declaration of allegiance to your future or betrayal of it. Or take this one: if you do not master yourself, someone else will. History is filled with examples. Entire nations have fallen because their leaders were slaves to appetite, distraction, or pride. On a personal level, the same is true. If you cannot control your impulses, corporations, governments, and influencers will happily do it for you. Your weakness becomes their profit. These sentences are meant to sting. They are not comforting, and they are not meant to be. They exist to wake you from the trance of normality, because until you are shocked, you will not change. So let me leave you with this challenge. Choose one of these lines, write it down, and carry it with you for the next 7 days. Every time you are tempted by comfort, let that phrase confront you. See if your choices begin to shift. After all, an empire is not built by accident. It is built by repeating the right words, the right actions, until they carve a new destiny. Here is a truth most people refuse to face. Poverty and wealth are not opposites in the way we imagine. They are intertwined, like two sides of the same coin. And the paradox is this: what feels like wealth today often leads to poverty tomorrow, while what feels like poverty today often creates wealth tomorrow. Think about indulgence: to buy what you cannot afford, to eat beyond what you need, to rest when work still calls. These moments feel like abundance. They taste like freedom. But behind the sweetness hides the debt, the weakness, the regret. Comfort disguises itself as prosperity. Now think about discipline. To save instead of spend, to work when others rest, to rise early when you want to sleep in. These moments feel like deprivation. They sting. They look like poverty of pleasure. Yet this temporary sacrifice is precisely what compounds into wealth. Discipline disguises itself as suffering, but it is the seed of empire. This is the paradox the poor mindset cannot comprehend. The path to true wealth often looks like poverty at first glance. And the path to lasting poverty often looks like wealth at first glance. To see beyond appearances requires vision, and to act against appearances requires courage. Philosophers have long noted this. Seneca, the Stoic thinker, warned that luxury weakens the soul, while hardship strengthens it. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort, sleeping on hard floors, fasting, walking barefoot, not because they loved suffering, but because they knew wealth is not built in ease. Wealth begins in mastery of the self. In modern psychology, the same principle appears in the famous marshmallow test. Children who could delay gratification, choosing 2 marshmallows later over 1 marshmallow now, were more likely, decades later, to succeed in career, health, and relationships. Poverty of spirit is the inability to wait. Wealth of spirit is the patience to invest in tomorrow. So ask yourself, where in your life are you living this paradox without realizing it? Where do you mistake consumption for abundance? Where do you mistake sacrifice for loss? The empires of history and the empires of personal wealth are all built on the same principle: to embrace the paradox, to accept temporary poverty of indulgence for the sake of permanent wealth in power, freedom, and dignity. Discipline often feels like a burden in the present moment. It demands sacrifice, discomfort, and restraint. But hidden inside this discipline is the greatest reward: freedom. The paradox is that those who reject discipline live chained, while those who embrace it live free. Imagine 2 lives unfolding over 20 years. In the first, someone spends impulsively, avoids challenges, and chases comfort. Their days feel easy, but slowly debt, regret, and dependence close in around them. In the second, someone lives with intention, saving, learning, investing, sacrificing. Their days feel heavier at first, but with time, opportunity, respect, and influence begin to gather around them. The first life ends in slavery to circumstance, the second in mastery of destiny. This is the reward discipline offers. Not only wealth in money, but wealth in mind. You gain confidence because you know you can trust yourself. You gain respect because others see you govern your life with strength. You gain freedom because your future is not left to chance. Even psychology confirms this. Studies show that people who practice self-control report higher levels of happiness and life satisfaction. Why? Because discipline removes the chaos of regret. It creates order, structure, and clarity. While pleasure-seeking gives a spike of happiness, discipline gives a foundation for joy. And there is more. Discipline attracts opportunity. People are drawn to those who are reliable, consistent, and focused. A disciplined person is not only building personal wealth, they are building networks of trust and influence. This is why empires rise around leaders who can govern themselves before governing others. But let's bring it back to you. What is the practical reward waiting for you if you stop acting poor today? Maybe it is the relief of being debt-free. Maybe it is the power of waking up energized instead of exhausted. Maybe it is the pride of knowing you are no longer a prisoner to impulse. These are not small victories. They are the building blocks of your empire. So reflect. What is the reward you are truly seeking? Not the shallow prize of instant pleasure, but the lasting wealth of freedom, respect, and mastery. Because once you taste these rewards, you will never again confuse comfort with prosperity. If you want to stop acting poor, you cannot rely only on willpower. You need a framework, a way of life that organizes your energy, choices, and ambitions into something enduring. History, philosophy, and psychology all point to the same truth. Wealth is built on structure, not impulse. Let us begin with philosophy. Aristotle taught that virtue lies in habit. A person does not become disciplined by chance. They become disciplined by training the soul through repetition. What you do every day carves your character, and your character shapes your destiny. In other words, you are not what you think. You are what you consistently do. Now consider psychology. Modern research on implementation intentions shows that people succeed more when they design specific rules for themselves. If X happens, then I will do Y. For example, if I receive money, I will save 10% before I spend anything. These rules are not restrictive. They are liberating. They remove decision fatigue and anchor discipline into automatic behavior. History confirms the same. Every enduring empire had systems, laws, rituals, and structures that organized society. Rome did not expand by accident. It expanded because discipline was embedded in its institutions. The same principle applies to your personal empire. Without systems, your discipline will collapse under pressure. With systems, it becomes unshakable. So here is the framework of enduring wealth. Vision. Know clearly what you are building. Without vision, you drift. Habits. Translate vision into daily actions. Small, consistent behaviors matter more than bursts of effort. Boundaries. Protect your energy and resources. Say no to what weakens you, even when it looks attractive. Investment. Commit to growth. Invest not only money, but also time, skill, and relationships. Reflection. Regularly review your actions. Discipline is refined by awareness. This framework is not glamorous, and that is why it works. Acting poor is easy. It is impulsive, emotional, chaotic. Building wealth is harder. It is deliberate, strategic, structured. But once you align your life with this framework, discipline no longer feels like punishment. It becomes your foundation, the architecture of freedom. So ask yourself, which of these 5 pillars is weakest in your life right now? Because your empire will always be as fragile as its weakest stone. You have walked with me through a difficult truth. Acting poor is not about money, it is about mindset. Poverty is a pattern of comfort, avoidance, and impulse. Wealth is a discipline of vision, sacrifice, and construction. Machiavelli knew this when he wrote that fortune favors the prepared, not the passive. And history confirms it. Empires rise on discipline and collapse on indulgence. Now the question is no longer why. The question is, what will you do? Because awareness without action is another form of poverty. You have seen the paradox. Comfort enslaves, discipline frees. You have seen the invisible patterns, the small habits that silently shape your destiny. You have seen the framework, vision, habits, boundaries, investment, reflection. The map is clear, but only you can walk the path. So here is my challenge. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for more money, more time, or more certainty. Empires are never built in perfect conditions. They are built in chaos, with limited resources, by those willing to start now. Your empire of wealth will be the same. Every disciplined choice you make from this day forward is a brick laid in its foundation. Ask yourself, what is the one habit you will break starting today? And what is the one discipline you will adopt to replace it? Write it down, say it out loud, and let it become the first act of your new identity. Because discipline is not something you do, it is someone you become. If you take nothing else from this journey, take this. Wealth is not a miracle. It is not luck, nor privilege, nor fate. Wealth is the reward of those who master themselves. And if you master yourself, no one and nothing can stop the empire you will build. Now I turn to you. Tell me in the comments, what discipline will you commit to today, and what comfort will you abandon to make room for it? Share it not just as a statement, but as a declaration of identity. And if this message resonated with you like this video, subscribe and join a community of people who refuse to act poor, people who are choosing to build empires of freedom, vision, and power. Your empire begins now. The first brick is in your hands.